This is my review for Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation, the fourth film in the franchise, and as has become the tradition by this point, this film has seemingly no relation to the previous one. There is an opening text crawl which runs up the screen mentioning the 1973 incident plus two further incidents. Is this meant to reference the second and the third movies? You know what, I'm not even going there. I have long since given up trying to link the continuity in these movies. As far as I'm concerned, they're all just standalone adventures that happen to involve Leatherface. Speaking of which, Leatherface is basically like a foster kid now, getting moved around from one cannibalistic family to another. I can literally picture a social worker going, "So, Mr. Leatherface, sorry that last family didn't work out. We found you a new home, though. We think you'll like it. There's a shotgun-wielding hillbilly who fancies himself as a bit of a poet. There's also this psychotic bitch who runs some sort of real estate office, but she does get pizza in on a weekend." You sort of get the picture. So the story for this involves a group of high schoolers who leave their prom night in a car and somehow get lost in Texas Chainsaw Country, and Bob's Your Sister, we've got ourselves another movie. It has to be said that the distance between the high school and the new Sawyer house is extremely short. I mean, it feels like they're not in the car for more than about 2 minutes before suddenly there's no street lights in the world and we're in the middle of nowhere. In the previous movies, it seemed to be a convoluted journey through miles and miles of desert scrub for the main characters to get to the Sawyer house. Well, not anymore. The Sawyer house is now like the Polar Express. It will just come to you. It will come to civilization. We're ditching all the foreplay. Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey are famously in this film, playing the two main roles, two actors who would obviously go on to great things in Hollywood. I can't say on a personal level I was that excited to see them both. I've never seen anything with Renee Zellweger in it before. Bridget Jones would not be my thing. I can't even think of anything else she's even done. In the case of McConaughey, I can't even think of one thing he's even done before, but both their talents definitely shine through in this film. Zellweger as the lead protagonist Jenny, and McConaughey as the head honcho of the new family that Leatherface has joined. I don't want to say that you can tell from watching this that both these actors would go on to make it big, because I've seen many a strong performance in a horror film from someone who has then disappeared off the map for some reason. It's very random in the movie industry who makes it to the big leagues and who doesn't, but certainly both Zellweger and McConaughey do a good service to this film because they're both very good, especially Zellweger, I think, who makes a pig out of a sew with the Jenny role. I mean, there's nothing on the page. It might as well just read Shy Girl with Glasses, but she makes something of it, and I was fully behind her in a quest to survive against the odds, as it were. That's not to say that this is a good film, though, because it's not. Just like the third film, there's very much a TV film feel to the way that it's shot, especially when there's a scene in the woods. The camera never feels like it's more than about 2 yards from anybody's face. There's no medium to long shots, which might give a sense of scope or personality to the woods. In terms of the storyline, there are too many elements just repeated from the earlier films. Jenny spends way too long in captivity, being tormented and abused and teased. I mean, it goes on for so long. I'm just like, that goddamn dinner table scene resurfaces yet again. We're thankfully spared from the whole bucket and hammer routine, I suppose. There's a granddad character in there. I don't know if that's meant to be the same guy from the earlier films. Probably it is, and he's just found a way to regenerate his face as if he's in a Resident Evil film or something. Remember from the start of the third film when the two cars hit each other and that's how the protagonists are forced to be on foot? That's repeated exactly the same way in this film. Another repeat is Leatherface swinging his chainsaw around for the final shot of the movie. Then we also get a homage to the Leatherface Sally chase from the first film, which ends in exactly the same way, by the way, with the victim running into a shop they think is safe, and it's actually run by a member of the Sawyer family. I think I read somewhere that all these recycled ideas are meant to be like satire or homaging what's gone before, but if that's the intended approach, then I just don't really see the merit in it. It's not that entertaining, really. Going back to that chase between Leatherface and Jenny, that's quite fun to watch, especially the bit where she, for some reason, tries to climb on an aerial. But I think they should have had Barry and Heather, who were Jenny's friends, still alive when this chase begins, because during that chase, I thought to myself, there's no way they're going to kill Jenny at this point because she's the only protagonist left. So I think Barry and Heather should have been alive until after that chase. And then I could have thought, well, maybe they'll kill Jenny at this point and Heather could become the final girl. You know, you'll keep that possibility open. Going back to Barry and Heather, this is the third film running now where we've opened the story with a complete twat of a male character driving a car, or at least in a car. So at the start of Texas 2, we had those immature college kids. At the start of Texas 3, we had the world's worst boyfriend. And at the start of Texas 4, we have the world's worst boyfriend Mark II in the form of Barry. Within 5 minutes of this film's opening, he's cheated on his girlfriend. He's then tried to claim that part of the reason why he cheats is because if he doesn't get enough sex, he might get prostate cancer. He's then called Jenny ugly in front of her and her friends in a really serious way as well, not a jokey way. So what a complete bellend. And yet, by the time he gets to the Sawyer house, I still found myself rooting for him. I mean, there are twats like Barry in the world, but then there are far worse people, like the Sawyers. So damn this movie for making me care about Barry, I guess. He actually has a couple of moments where he's quite the badass. I like it when he shuts W.E. out by locking the back door. And then he just nonchalantly goes for a piss. I mean, there's a guy with a shotgun trying to kill you out back. If it were me, I'd have been running out the front door, fleeing for the hills if I could. But he's like, oh no, I'll go at my own pace. I'll have a quick whiz before I get going. Heather was an interesting character. I get the impression that she's the sort of person who appears to be quite dumb on the outside, but is secretly smarter than what she's letting on. There's a curious scene where her and Barry are walking down this roadside, and Barry's got his trap shut for a change. And Heather's giving out this slow monologue, and I struggled to hear all the words that she was saying, actually. I don't know if it was just the tricky sort of Texas accent or whether the audio on my DVD was a bit bad. I rewound this scene 3 times, and I still didn't fully get all the words. I think what she was trying to say was that just like her mother, she considers herself a bit of a gold digger, but having thought about it, she's content with her choice. Correct me in the comments if I've analysed that wrong, but I think Heather could have been a very interesting character, actually, if she'd lived a bit longer. I don't think there's too much point dwelling on the 4th member of the group who dies right at the start. I don't know if he's Jenny's boyfriend or friend. He's the really wimpy guy who gets run over. Let me just put myself in his shoes, by the way, for 1 minute during that scene. So, there's a maniac in a pickup truck chasing me down a straight dirt road with woodland either side of the road. How am I going to get out of this? I know. I'll run straight down the dirt road and try and outrun the pickup truck. I'm pleased to say we get a good Leatherface this time around. I was not impressed with the portrayal in number 2 and number 3, but this is about as close to the Gunnar Hansen version as I think we're ever going to get in terms of the movement and what he does. And I quite like the cross-dressing aspect, which is heavily emphasised here. I think it's a logical extension of the character, and Leatherface actually looks creepy as hell, dressed up as a middle-aged woman. I don't really like any of the other villains. Vilmar is just irritating as hell, as well as he is played by McConaughey. The businesswoman villain, that was just kind of weird. I don't know what they were going for there. W.E. with his little poetry quotes was kind of fun, but it's annoying how none of these characters, apart from Vilmar, seem to get a definitive death. I don't know if they were trying to keep things open for a possible sequel, so they could reuse most of the same family and they wouldn't have to refoster Leatherface again. Vilmar's death is really odd. Where does that plane come from? And why does this guy feel the need to swoop down and intervene on what he's seeing? He has no context for what he's seeing down in the field. You know, Jenny and Vilmar could just be a pair of lovers chasing each other into a meadow to make out, as far as the guy in the plane knows, yet he feels like he's seen enough to justify coming down and absolutely obliterating Vilmar. It's a completely bonkers ending, actually, on the whole. You've got the old couple in the camper van who just happen to be holidaying in the next field over from the Sawyer house. Then there's the limousine parked in the middle of a field 100 yards away. It's a bit crazy. The Secret Society plot was different, I suppose. It was nice to see Vilmar not be the most intimidating person in the room, if only for 5 minutes. I'm guessing then that these mysterious people hold something over the new Sawyers, like maybe evidence of their past crimes, and that if they don't do as they're told, they'll all go to prison or something like that. It's fascinating to think then that Vilmar, for instance, might not even want to be terrorising and killing people, but maybe he just chooses this over being sent down. You'd think a guy with a bad leg might not do very well in a hostile prison environment. Do they even have the death penalty, maybe, in Texas? Maybe they're afraid of that. But as fascinating as this concept is, it doesn't get explored very far in this film, and it certainly isn't explored in the next one, because I know the next one is some kind of reboot. So to sum up then, I definitely come down on the side of the fence as not really enjoying this film. It does have some good elements, some good acting, 1 or 2 good characters, a decent Leatherface, an ending that's just about crazy enough that I somehow enjoyed it when I probably shouldn't have done. But the negatives are too big for me to get over, especially the fact that Jenny spends too long in captivity. The family constantly bickering with each other just gets on my nerves, and it's not filmed in a very interesting way, as I said earlier. So not a particularly great film. I can't see myself coming back to it in the future. I have seen worse films in my life, I suppose, not least Texas 3. It's at least an improvement over that, however slightly. So let's get to the bag of terror then and see what the score is. Not much in here today. Just 1.5 bloody axes for Texas Chainsaw, The Next Generation. Is it Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation? Either way, I think this film actually had a different title originally, and then they changed it during production or something, but anyway, it's not important. Right, I'll be back soon with a review for the 5th film in the series, which, like I've said, is a reboot. I think it's just called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like the original film's title, maybe. I don't know, we'll see. Till next time, bye-bye.